as opposed to the seat eject button. All right.
All right. I think I hit the record
We're
button.
on.
We're on. Here's our big. So before we started recording, Zach and I were thinking of what's going to be our intro. And after 5 minutes, we decided, why are we talking about our intro? Let's just start talking. We're two guys that don't really need to plan much. Once the red light is on, we turn on. So let's do it.
Dude, we were actually talking about how like we need our kids to now do all this tech stuff for us. But if you look at kind of the coaches who are in this field 10, 15 years younger than us, maybe even 20 years younger, they have like they got like a dedicated film person. I don't know where we missed the boat.
Yeah, I say now that back when we started, your first big hire was like a coach to help you because you got overwhelmed with coaching. Now, I even say when someone asks me, hey, I'm starting my own business out of my garage, out of a warehouse. What's my first employee? I go, in 2021, get somebody to walk around and film you and knows how to edit content, because that's the world we live in right now.
It is. That's crazy. Think about everything that, even in the college sector, the cameras are constantly flying so they could put up these kind of highlight reels on Instagram, on YouTube, because that's what attracts their recruits. And they're showing, of course, the highlights. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to go out of the gate with a throat punch. Sometimes these big D1 strength coaches, I'm like, damn, that guy's benching wrong. His butt's in the air. His wrist is bent. He's bouncing off the box on the box squat. So come at me, haters.
Yeah, no, but it's so true, because they want that highlight so bad. They want to be able to say, look, we have 2,500 pound squatters, but then guys with a little bit more of an educated eye. And now that we're in our 40s and you look at things different, it's like, yeah, that looks cool. It's a cool hype video, but that kid's back is going to be screwed up in another 4 years. And that kid's knees are effing up. And that kid, you might've just ruined his NFL career because he's got about 150 more pounds on the bar than he should have had. So you got to be careful with that stuff.
You're thinking preserve the body. I guess at our age and our experience level. And people ask me all the time, Joe, like this changes of the coaching. And so you and I were talking about our kids, and when we did that seminar, we were talking about the sports that they're in, and some guy was like doing the conditioning for your kids, and you're like, oh, damn it. And so now we see some of the bad / uneducated things happening. And so now that you're a dad and a coach with kids who are in competitive sports, you just train kids differently because you also know what's going on with them outside. So, all right, I'm training a football team. I'm training football players, but I know that when they're with their coach, they're probably running a ton of gassers and they're doing a lot of round back, back bend power cleans. And, you know what I'm saying? So you start like trying to undo all those things. Not that anything I did is perfect or was perfect, but now you have this different coach's eye that I think I have a hard time writing about it. When I'm trying to write an article on it, it's like, it's hard for me to put into words. But if I'm in a weight room and I'm looking, we're all squatting, and I see down there that the kid was not going all the way down and he wants to add weight. And I'm like, man, we need to go lighter. But if you just add a 5 on there, you're going to do half squats.
Yep.
If you just add a 5, you're going to do it. Like, you can now read. It's almost like you could predict what's going to happen. It takes a lot of training time and coaching time to see that stuff.
And this is a great topic, because I'm sure you get this question too. It's a huge one, is when you are in the private sector and you're training high school kids, how do you deal with they're training at school 3, 4, 5 times a week, yet their parents still want them to go to the private sector, specialty strength and conditioning coach. What do you don't, listen, we're in business too. You don't want to turn away business. What do you do? And earlier in my career, it was more of an ego thing where it's like, well, I know my program is better. And so we're doing what what DeFranco's gym is doing today. Like, I'm not changing my shit for anyone.
That's
But
right.
now I more educated. I like to think, more mature, less of an ego. Now our first thing is, okay, like to your point, I could tell the way you're moving. I could tell the way you're acting. You're shot. What did you
Yep.
do at school today? What did you do at school yesterday? Whatever. And now we put our ego to the side. You put the athlete, the kid first, and we say, okay, your coach made you, do 10 sets of 10 squats and then run hills and stadium stairs until you puked.
Yep.
I had legs. I thought we were going to do a lower body strength workout today, but you know what? I'm going to call an audible. We're going to do some foam rolling, some stretching, maybe some tempo runs. Maybe we'll put an empty bar on your back. And since your coach has you squatting so much and so heavy, I'll teach you how to do it properly. And
Yes.
we'll think more movement quality, mobility. And now let's do all the things you're not doing at school.
Yeah.
And it took a while, when you're a young, eager, hyped up, strength coach.
Yeah.
It's tough to do that. But now I could sleep better at night knowing we have the kids' best interest at heart. We're doing what's better for them long term. And that's what it should be about. It shouldn't be about us. It's about the clients and the kids.
Yeah. I describe that as I'm training this kid as I would hope a coach would train my own kids. And so the
Bingo.
way you're explaining that, that's the feel I get from you. You're thinking about, okay, what if, my daughters are being coached and I was sending them to a private coach? And what's interesting is people will say, Zach, do the kids still go to a private coach even though you are training them? Like they think, oh, everybody knows who Zach is. If Joe DeFranco was training kids, they would still go to a private guy. My buddy Jason Spray, he was at University of Middle Tennessee. He was like NSCA Strength Coach of the Year. He's like, dude, kids are still going to private coaches. He's now at a private high school. He's like, they still go to a private coach. I spoke with Jim Wendler, and Jim was like, dude, you will make yourself crazy if you're trying to control all that. And I'm going to tell you when I actually learned to start segueing the way you are is in the early days when you were on the Elite FTS Q&A, then I got on the Q&A. Somebody actually sent in a Q&A to Dave Tate, and Dave responded and said, if I was a strength coach in the private sector, the first thing I would do is reach out to the coach and say, hey, I'm training one of your players, Joe DeFranco. Can let me know anything you want me to work on with him to help make your job easier, and I'll do that for you. And I was like, man, that makes sense, because I was like you. Listen, your coach is doing it wrong, and I even have to explain this. I'm sure you do as well with your certification. The coaches get so hyped up, especially your early, influential days of Westside. Early days Westside, Louis primarily spoke about strength. He spoke about dynamic effort, but from what I heard, dynamic effort always became a max effort day for those guys. So people that were new to coaching would say, listen, this dad brought his kid to me. He said he needs to work on speed, agility, first step quickness. And I told him, your son cannot get fast until he gets strong. And I'm like, dude, you're just arguing with the guy who doesn't really know our language.
Yeah.
So you got to let them say those things. And so even, I'm at a high school. This is the end of my second year there. And I still got kids that go to a private coach and they come and do things wrong. Like they dumbbell bench incorrectly, or they don't squat all the way down. Well, that's an opportunity for me to teach them. You just got to educate them. And if they, that's it. You got to educate them. And if you do the right thing, I believe in your heart, and they end up not coming back or whatnot, you still did the right thing, and you win anyway.
Doing the right thing is always the right thing.
That's it.
Hey, since we kind of started talking about this already, you posted on your Instagram that we're going to do a podcast, and people sent questions, and one of them that caught both of our eyes, I saw we both liked it, we said we talk about it, is they said Dr. Nick Ochipinti. I know I
butchering his name. Send that guy a t-shirt.
Yes, but he's all. I know he follows both of our stuff a lot, and I the name is a rough one. But anyway, Dr. Nick, he wanted to know, love to hear our input on dealing with young athletes' parents. He said he's worked with adults most of his career, but recently started training more young athletes, 10 to 19 years old. I love training the kids, but sometimes the parents have unrealistic expectations about their kids' athletic future, and or coming in telling me what their child needs. And then he goes on to give some examples. But I thought this is something we could both definitely speak on.
This
And
could
now
be a
you're back
full
into
episode.
teaching. So yeah, this could literally be a full episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you wanted to start, and I throw my input in there too.
We could riff on this for a long time. So you and I actually spoke about this when we recorded our first business seminar together, where
Yes.
I would do the Q&A at the end of my cert. You had mentioned kind of like the first kids that you kicked out because of lack of work ethic. And I shared the same thing about how my free trial was not so much this, hey, try us out. It was my assessment of your effort. And I let the parents know I'm assessing if you're going to actually let me coach your kid, because my first gym didn't have a waiting area. It was that garage, and parents would kind of hover behind the garage door on the tractor tires. And what happened was a few dads would shout from, quote unquote,
Yep.
the sidelines. And I remember the first guy who told his son to go heavier on the deadlift, his son like pulled the deadlift. My buddy Wellborn says, if you look like a dog shitting razor blades, like you're going too heavy. That round back look, right? It's like, it hurts you to even think about it.
We call it a cat shit deadlift, but I love dog shitting razor blades. I mean, that might be even better.
That is so funny. So we're going to die laughing with all this stuff. So I remember, we spoke of Coach's Eye. We were doing sets of 5 or maybe triples. And I was like, man, that kid's going to have to do the same weight or even go lighter and kind of do a down set, a technique set. But he goes over to his bag near the tractor tires. His dad is there. And his dad's like, was that easy? And what do you think his son's going to say? Oh, no, that was hard. He's like, yeah. So his dad goes, go heavier. So he comes back, and I let it play out, because I was like, I am so sick of parents shouting. Because back then I actually had a physical newsletter for gym members where I spoke about no parents in the gym. My website says no parents in the gym. So, Dr. Nick could really preface all of this by having it on his website as a liability. So long story short, I said, all right, last setup, man, let's stay here. Keep your back flat. He's like, I want to go heavier. I was like, dude, that last set you did was rough. You shouldn't go heavier. He's like, let's just add 10 pounds. I knew that if we added a feather, it was going to become the cat shit deadlift. He adds a 10 to each side, and rep 1, just like his back just starts rounding, and each rep is like round. So it was either a 3 or 5 rep set. And I said, dude, man, you could jack up your back. I go, you get hurt, you hurt your back. I go, we're not talking about a couple weeks. Like, this could take months for you to feel better. So then I go over to his dad, and I just said, kind of like not in his face, but I was like, don't ever tell him to go heavier. Like, that's why you hired me. You got to let me do that. But we still had dads shouting and doing all that shit. So when I sent out the next physical newsletter, I made it like an embarrassing joke. I said, we are now starting daddy and me classes. I was like, you can hold your son's hand coming into the gym. You can tell him what, I made it like an embarrassing thing. And I got that because my daughter was going to Mommy and Me with at age 10 months. So what I've learned to do is, now our gym doesn't have any waiting area. And I have it on my website that parents are not allowed in because it's a liability. But now I want to flip it. And then I'm going to let you take this, Joe. When a dad says, I do an interview before people come in, and I say, what do you think your son or what does your daughter need to work on? Because you're watching them wrestle, play soccer, play baseball, football. Where do they struggle? So I let them tell me. What I've learned through the, 20 plus years of coaching is they don't know our terminology. So we understand speed, power. We know that core strength is a buzzword. We're maybe not going to use those words, but they use those words. And so you got to speak their language. Don't recall too many dads telling me my son has to get strong. But when they break down and explain everything and they do mention core and speed, really what they're saying is my son is weak. But I don't go saying, oh, we don't do core. This is what we do. I just speak their language and go with that. And then, of course, when you get them in, you work on what they need. And I'll tell you this, what's changed. I also work on what they want. So if a kid says to me, Coach, can we get some speed work in? I know that he wants to get on the hurdles. He wants to do some side to side, some sprint work. I do it because now that I have kids in sports who, let's say my son will say, Coach, can I play somewhere else than the outfield? And that coach is like, no, you'll go when I tell you to go. I don't want that.
Yeah.
They're paying me. And so, of course, I do what they need, but there's nothing wrong with a little bit of giving them what they want, which is also what they need.
Yeah, there's definitely a fine balance, and it is a business, and you do want kids or adults that you train to enjoy it somewhat. You can't completely dread going to the gym. Like, yes,
Yep.
you have to push yourself, and there's going to be, difficult aspects of training, and anything worth having doesn't come easy. But yeah, if someone likes to sprint, yeah, throw some sprints in, just as long as it's not, so bad that it's doing any kind of harm. But I love what you said about the assessment, about making it an assessment of the parents too, and the
Yes.
kid, and not just, if their knees valgus when they squat and their upper back and lower back rounds, but like, are they coachable, and are their parents allowing them to be coached without chirping in their ear? I think that's brilliant and should be more talked about as part of the assessment. I do think you bring up a great point about speaking their language. I think to separate yourself from like the gym down the street that you're competing with, yes, you want to maybe show that you have some knowledge and experience, and you want the parents to make sure that they know that there is a reason behind what you do. Like, as you know, there's a lot of young trainers and coaches in our industry that just do stuff because they saw it on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yet if a parent ever called them out and said, oh, that's a really cool looking exercise, why are we doing that? You're going to get like the generic answer of like, oh, because it's really good and it'll, make your son stronger, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you could now, with that assessment, it's so you bring it up. I'm sure we've seen the same thing a million times. The big thing with parents, the speed slash they all want more speed slash agility. And then jumping was big. We used to work with a lot of like volleyball players and basketball players, and they all wanted to improve their vertical jump. Yet it was funny when you asked them, they would come and we would explain what we do, or after they maybe saw us train and it was more strength based with the younger kids, the parents that would complain, a lot of times it was because, oh, why aren't you doing more plyos? Why aren't you doing
Yeah.
more speed and agility work? And when I would ask them, hey, can you just remind me again, what brought you to me? Like, you walked through my doors. I didn't come grab you outside and make you to come here. What brought you to me? Like, what is your son here for again? What, we wanted him or her to get faster. We wanted them to get quicker. We wanted them to jump higher. 9 times out of 10, when I asked them, well, had you gone to another trainer and didn't get good results? 9 times out of 10, they did go somewhere else and didn't get good results.
Yes.
And it's so crazy to me that then when I asked them, what kind of stuff were they doing over there? A lot of times it was more jumps, more plyos. You're taking this 14-year-old girl who, again, can't do a body weight squat without her knees going valgus, her heels
Right.
coming up, her upper and lower back rounding. And then they're just having that girl do a bunch of jumps and plyos. And then you wonder why her knees bother her, her ankles bother her. And you didn't get the result anyway, yet now you're by me, I'm doing things differently, but they still don't even realize it until they say it. The definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and thinking you're going to get a different result. And
Yeah.
that's where in a very, very simple way, I would explain to them, listen, I know you're here for speed. I know you're here to have little Johnny jump higher, but watch when I'm doing my assessment, or I'll have the kid do it again. Look at your son or daughter. I'm going to have them do 3 body weight squats. See how their knees cave in, see how their upper back rounds over, see how their feet
Yes.
move out. That's all because they are not strong enough to control their own body weight. And then I always use this simple explanation of power, or the ability to jump higher. It's really just your ability to display your strength, but faster. So a
Yes.
squat is strength, a vertical jump is power. You're just squatting faster and jumping into the air. You can't develop your strength quickly if you have no foundational strength. So, that, Mrs. Jones, is why you
Yeah.
see your son or daughter squatting and dragging the sled and doing these basic strength lifts, because what we're doing is developing the foundation needed to run faster, jump higher. Then once they start getting a little bit stronger, yes, we're going to sprinkle in more sprints, more jumps. But this is the reason why your old trainer, not trying to bash anybody, but you went there for a year, you got no results. That's why you came to me. And now you're questioning what I do because it's not the same as what the trainer that you just fired did.
Right.
And then, a lot of time, and I always start off in a nice way, humble, very like friendly. And it's crazy because a lot of them, when they hear it like that, it's like, oh my God, I didn't even realize I was kind of doing that.
You have to.
And
Yeah.
then, like you said, it's a happy balance of sprinkling in some things they enjoy too. And last thing, I think, with your assessment, have a few indicators, like some things that you could show measurable results. So
Measure.
like a simple vertical jump on a jump mat or a vertex,
Yeah.
something with not much error that you could test and say, hey, little Johnny jumped 14 inches. And then 6-8 weeks later, you test again and you go, look, that 14 inches is now 19 inches. You see, even though we didn't jump a lot, you came here to jump higher. He or she is jumping higher. And then you can't argue those measurable results. And then once they start to buy in, you got yourself a client for life.
Right. And then, of course, the ultimate measure is when they see their own son or daughter compete in sport
Boom.
against, maybe in a position that they used to struggle. Now they see the changes, through their very own eyes. And to back up, Joe, for Dr. Nick, I do give parents the option to stay in during that first session, during the trial/assessment. The other thing I tell them is the assessment never ends. It
Yes.
is ongoing. And if I'm only assessing you like at certain time, like we're missing the boat, and you're missing the boat. So now we know the stressors that athletes are going through, whether it's emotional stressors from school, from relationships, whether it's family or dating relationships, or the way the body is responding to, preseason football camp is starting next week for most high schools. So we change things and auto regulate on the fly. The other thing I would say, for Dr. Nick is, what I do with my website is there's videos on there of us training. There's testimonials of parents essentially, talking about the common struggles that I hear. And so I just share it. Like you and I, we were talking earlier before we recorded. This is important, I think, for coaches who are getting in the business to hear from guys like us. We're like, oh, we need to record like we need to do a thing for this business course that we recorded, the seminar. And then we're like, let's just do the 1-minute video that we have and keep it simple and not try to bullshit anything. And kind of what you mentioned earlier is sometimes coaches try to, make things complicated. What you were talking about with kind of breaking down what the kid would go through during the assessment is, I've heard the saying, like, tell it to me like you would tell it to a first grader.
Yep.
You broke it down simple. If you can't explain it in a simple manner and you're always trying to wow people with fancy words, that dude Naval said that that's the mark of a charlatan.
Yeah.
He said you're basically trying to be like, a charlatan is like those guys that would be at the circus, like trying
Yep.
to like dupe you and trick you into things. And so I just tell people how it is. So when I talk to parents, I go, I'm going to talk to you in two ways. I'm going to talk to you as a coach, and I'm also going to talk to you as a father of two kids. And I'm going to explain to you why I'm going to be tough on your son so he doesn't waste your time driving and your hard-earned money. Because I know what it's like to take my kids out of state and all around the country for coaching, and to sometimes not get a good coach who's not,
Yes.
you know,
It's a horrible
forget about it.
feeling. It's a horrible.
Yeah, well,
Now that we're dads, my first experience with another coach when my girls were like 5 or 6, we brought them to a quote unquote soccer coach,
yeah,
and it turned out to be, and nothing again. We started young. I started at 21, but this
right.
was like a 21-year-old kid looking at his phone, flipping around, playing with his
Oh,
stopwatch the whole time. And I went in and said, Ashley was like, don't be yelling and screaming to them. Exactly the parents we're talking about that we don't like. I made sure I go, I'm just because I do this for a living, I swear I'm not going to be that parent. We're
right.
paying for a soccer trainer. I just want to sit and watch because I love my kids and I want to see how they do.
Yeah.
And but it was hard to keep my mouth shut because this wasn't me trying to go over this coach's head. It was just a coach, a young kid who was collecting a paycheck and wasn't paying attention to my kids. And this wasn't a cheap place. Like we're dropping
This
a
stuff's
lot of
expensive.
money. So now
Yeah.
being on the other side, it just makes you so much more aware of that kind of stuff.
You're aware. And then you as a coach, or even your own staff, you want to say, listen, I know you don't have kids, you're a young guy, but step outside of your body and pretend that you're watching your future kids get coached by you. What does that look like?
Yeah.
Is the coach touching his phone? Are they coaching them just in technique, or do they talk about life and effort? And if things are not going, the way they wanted to, do they, adjust on the fly? And now, because I'm at the high school, my groups are so large. I'll coach, 100 to 200 kids a day. I tell those kids, be wary if I'm not tough on you, because then now you pushed me to a point where I don't care. And I go, that is really a hard place to get to. But
Yep.
if I'm on your back to squat lower or to talk less and to pay attention when I'm talking, I go, that's because I care about your success. And so this, as a coach who's not, I feel like I'm OCD, but I kind of think that's the way to be as a coach. You got to be on the ball. You got to, I feel like that's being a pro
Yes.
versus, all right, that dude didn't squat all the way down, or his one wrist is bent when he benches. I'm not going to really say anything, or, his back was round on that pull, whatever. That was, I don't want that. I want those details to be addressed. And maybe that is OCD, but I like that feeling of like finished coaching and being like, all right, I laid it all out. I laid it all out on the line for these kids today. Like I didn't coast to the last group, and try to reserve my energy.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes coaching is in the private sector, joke could be harder than college, because I heard a college coach say they had like, now there's all this technology. It'll
Yep.
tell you how fast you're lifting the bar, how this and that. And the coach was like, now we don't got to really, shout at them. And I don't think, it's not like if you shout, you're not coaching, you are coaching. But what about the coach's eye? What if the bar moves fast, but the technique was shit? Now
Yes.
what? Do you have the coach's eye to say, listen, you did move it fast. You moved it faster than your other set, but we're going to not count this because the technique was really bad, dude. Let's say it's a clean. You caught it with your feet way wide, your back, your butt was up in the air. And so those little details, they actually do count. Whereas some people might say, hey man, those little things don't count. They do count. They
I
count a
agree. The
lot.
little things make a big difference in a lot of things. The way you run your business, coaching, and
Yeah.
in fact, those little nuances are what separate the great coaches from just
Agreed.
like the pretty good ones. And humbly say, for guys like us that have now 25 years, in the game, I think those who stick around long pay attention to those little things. And to your point, especially this is private sector and college or a high school strength and conditioning coach. We talk about this all the time as far as we've all had those long days where you got, 8 appointments in a row, no break. You haven't eaten, you haven't taken a piss, like you've had it. And now another group walks in and they're fresh and ready to go. And as tired as you are, it might be your 8th, 9th session of the day, but it's always that client's first session with you. And many times they're probably looking forward to it. Like I know your place and mine were very similar, where our athletes competed against each other, had that same type of camaraderie, because I think they had that common bond of, pushing themselves and the same type of gym and atmosphere. But I also would, again, humbly say, I think it's your guys respected you so much and my guys respected me, because we would both give our every last ounce of energy. Like as much as we love what we do, I would go home, and I know you do too, like exhausted, where you can't even feel like you could walk by the end of the day. But it's a good feeling because you gave your all to your first session, your 6th session, your 9th session, and the kids, they see that. And if you don't do that, I never told you this story. I have to share this with you. I've told it on my podcast, but it's real quick. Just speaking along these lines, the opposite. Not the soccer trainer, the first gymnastics school we sent our kids to when they were young. First thing that they really loved, it was only 1 day a week, Saturday. They looked forward to it, like 4 or 5 years old, but they knew, gymnastics, we get to go tumble and play around for 45 minutes. Loved it. Like their 6th or 7th session after they've been going for a while and really, looked forward to it. They knew Saturday morning, go to gymnastics. Man, I was never so aggravated in my life. We walk in, there's usually, it was my 2 twins and like 4 or 5 other little girls in the class. We walk in, there's nobody there, but the gymnastics instructor, who's like a grown woman in her 40s, like adult professional, or not professional, but an adult. I thought she was a professional. She's on the computer. So nobody's there. So we're just waiting for her to turn around to say hello, good morning.
Yeah.
She turns around. My kids are all excited. They're running around like, hey, I won't even mention her name. Hey, Mrs. So-and-so. She goes, swear to God, her exact reaction, she goes, oh, I thought I was going to get the hour off. The other 3 girls canceled today. And my kids, even at like 4, looked at me like they were so like distraught. Like, wait, are we still having gymnastics today? I go, yeah, you're still having gymnastics today. Mrs. Jones over here is going to give you a great session because that's her job. And I freaking paid for it.
My stomach just dropped.
Yeah, dude, you imagine having a kid walk in and you go, oh, the other kids in your group canceled. I thought I was going to get the hour off. Get another job. First of all, if that's the way you feel. Second of all, I'm not going to lie. I'm sure you agree. I felt like that a couple times, sick, tired, family problems, and you still have another 3 appointments. You couldn't pay me $1 million to say that as a joke to a client.
Dude, it's just my stomach dropped when you said that. You know what hurts is like when adults do things that hurt kids.
Yes.
It fucking kills me. And I know, like, I'm trying not to curse. I know it's okay to curse, but like, it fucking kills me.
I try to. It never.
I'm like, man, how can you do something that hurts a kid? To me, that's when I start having a problem with those people calling themselves coaches. And I'm going to say this too on the flip side, Joe. Some places who have all these coaches that don't care. And I've been in these sport organizations, sport groups, where a lot of the coaches don't blow my mind. And I'm like, why did everybody say this place was so great? And I realize they don't know. I guess they don't know the difference between good and bad, let alone great and good. And and I'll say this, I know where Dr. Nick is getting the hookup here with all the ant Q&A, but that could sometimes be maybe a negative to me not allowing parents in. I don't have a large enough place where they could watch and get behind some sort of glass wall or something, glass windows. because then they could see as coaches, we are fucking working our faces off. I mean, I am on that ball with what they missed, what I want us to do again. And they, but I also feel sometimes with one dad inside or one mom inside and nobody else's parents are in, then it's awkward for the kid. And so all you could do as a coach and all you should do, and I feel like I need to kind of come up with some sort of like, I don't know what this would be. I don't know if you guys have it for your certification, but like a code of what you stand for, because I know how you would feel if somebody was wearing your shirt, whether it was a DeFranco's or your CPPS shirt, and they did something like that, or they're always on their phone.
Oh,
You would feel like that you, as a mentor slash coach, you'd be like, dude, I failed you, because this is not what we do on the floor. I listen, do I hold my phone on the floors to record shit? Absolutely. Do sometimes my wife text me 8 times in 2 minutes? Maybe.
I don't want to interrupt, but I feel like
Yeah.
if you're like me, I have clients that I've had for 10 years that kind, like if it was my first client, they don't know me from a hole in the wall and I'm doing their
Correct.
first assessment, the phone is in the
That ain't
desk drawer
happening.
and I'm not getting it.
Yes.
But I'm sure when your wife texts you, because I still do that too. Like when Ashley
Yes.
was pregnant, I said, hey, listen, my wife's pregnant. I have my phone on me. I might check it every now and then. Don't think I'm that guy. But even
Correct.
with that, it was like clients that knew me for 2, 3, 5 years. And
There's
they
a
were like, dude,
difference.
I know you. Keep your phone on you. That's fine.
Yeah.
But
Or my
there's a
daughter called
difference.
me 3 times. I missed the call. I'm going to text back. What's
Yes.
going on? They get it. And so yeah, I feel like I need to come up with a code, because I feel that this, professionalism is lacking a lot. And I don't know if it's lacking more in the private sector or in, public sector where you're working at colleges and high schools. But sometimes, I think it's gotten so easy to open up a small spot. I mean, you can get equipment very cheap, very affordable, and you can open up. People didn't have to think it through like we did. I know you borrowed money from your dad to buy Westside Barbell equipment for the storage closet. And for me, it was equipment pieced together from classified ads before there was Craigslist or eBay. And then I guess you just respect that fight more. And being a dad, I certainly respect the way the coach kid relationship. My kids are a little older than your girls, but I've seen some great coaches work with my kids and have great conversations. I've also seen, my son plays baseball. I've seen his team lose, and then the coaches get to, go gather them up and they're on the phone. I'm like, do you want to address anything to the kids? Do you want to talk to them about effort? Do you want to tell me what I can do to get my son better so he's not sitting or not in
Yeah.
this position? And I think that's an important message for us coaches for coaches out there, is sometimes I have to reach out to a mom or a dad and say, listen, I'm training your son, Joe. I'm sending you a screenshot of his attendance. He's here for 2 to 3 weeks. He's gone. He's here for 2 to 3 weeks. He's gone. Or his effort or his, he's not that coachable. I try to give him feedback. He argues with me. And I just want to let you know that if I can't coach him, where I'm not going to continue to go down this path with you, and we'll take a break and we could revisit in a year if you want to, but I want to let you know first so you could talk to him or talk to her, versus surprising, 3 months later, listen, this is why your daughter's not strong because blah, blah, blah. Well, dude, you didn't reach out to me. So this professional code, I think, look, and you and I said it from the beginning, we were not always professional. We were, I think, in early days, quite abrasive with some people. I've kicked kids out without giving them another chance. And, I'm always trying to get better. So even like last fall, I visited Mike Guadango, and Mike was talking to me about what he'll do with a kid who's new, who's shy, who's super weak. He's like, I won't even watch him do the warm up. He's like, I won't hover over him. I'll tell him, here's your warm up. He's like, I'll tell him he could fucking do 90 minutes of this warm up and take his time. And I was like, damn, I had just lost a kid because he trained in a group and just could not keep up. And I think it emotionally just wrecked him. And I was like, man, I don't do privates, but I probably should have said, listen, let's work together for 30 minutes for the next 3 months at this time, and I'll get you up to speed. But I kind of threw him right in. And
Yeah.
even though I changed things up and individualize it in the group, I don't know if this kid was a good fit, but bottom line is I made a mistake. And by watching Mike and just hearing Mike saying, yeah, I got nowhere to go. This kid could do his warm up in 90 minutes. There's no rush to get it done. And I took that as kind of some personal inventory of like, I need to slow it down for new kids. You
Yeah,
know,
Mike
here I
was
am.
always
Yeah.
great with the introvert. He was the, the opposite of an introvert,
Right.
but
That's
even
interesting.
early in his coaching career when he first started, when he went from training, as an athlete to being a
Yes, I
coach,
remember.
he would like I would give him the kids like, dude, and I was pretty good at getting kids to talk that were very introverted because
Yeah.
when I worked at Parisi's, my first 5 years was like the majority of kids were like 7 to 12, that awkward
Yeah.
kind of
Parisi
shy
gives you those
stage.
youth.
Yeah, and I thought I was good at it, but there were certain kids I just couldn't get. But Mike, you got to take this kid, and like within a week, the kid would be talking. He was always great with that. I just want to
Yeah,
give him
I was
a
actually
shout out for
shocked
that.
because I met Mike from you, and so I've known Mike since he was a teenager, and so when he explained it that way, I was first like, "Damn, that's a really unique way to look at bringing on a new athlete, just letting them take as long as they need." And so ever since then, when a kid is doing like, their first few weeks, I'm like, "These first few weeks are not gonna be hard."
Yep.
I'm like, I want you to take a break whenever you want to take a break. You need a drink. Don't ask me. Step outside, get fresh air. It's only 94 degrees in here. No big deal. Yeah,
I know
so
that feeling.
I take those things into account, but you know, I don't want to say I just learned it, but listening to Mike, it really hit home for me, and I've become a better coach because of that, you know, uh, small experience watching him.
Yeah, that I think there's another lesson in that. You could be coaching 20, 30, 40 years. We talk a lot about like having a white belt mentality of always lifelong learner. Like, yes, my
Yeah.
ultimate goal, I'm trying to be an expert and know as much as I can so I can help as many people, but you could learn something from
What are you
anyone. I
what are
learned
you
stuff from my
excited?
kids are 10 years old. Like
Yeah.
they piss me off a lot and you got to teach them a lot of lessons, but every now and then they'll say something, that you got
Yeah.
that like that honesty and like innocence of a kid where sometimes they'll say something and I'll be like,
Oh,
damn,
yeah.
yeah, that's a great point. I never thought of that. Like, holy,
Well,
I
what's
just learned something
something
from my 9-year-old,
yeah, what's something that, like, I'll share a story after you. What's, like, something that your kids taught you that really
you know,
that you're talking about?
right as go first because I couldn't remember the specific, but I could remember
Okay.
being in their bedroom and being like, whoa, they said
Yeah.
something, and I was like, and I'm drawing a blank, but it'll come to me.
Alright, so this is it. I don't remember the specifics of what was going on, but it was probably me arguing with my wife or my daughter, and everybody was arguing, and my son says to me, and this is a while ago, so my son could have been 7 or 8. He's like, "Dad, don't even get involved." He says to me, like, "Don't if they're arguing and you try to argue, now you go loud, they go loud." He's like, "Dad, don't even get involved. Just stay right here." And I was like, "Oh my God, dude, as they said in Forrest Gump, Gump, you're a goddamn genius." Like when he said that to me, I was like, he's right. You can't win if somebody's loud and you get loud. And look, have I always taken that advice? No. My gym, as you know, Joe, it backs up to a train station. And or I think it's like from '08 till 2012 or '07 to 2010, our town was a suicide cluster. Kids were jumping in front of trains. And
Whoa.
so sometimes, or actually quite often for a while, people would park behind my gym was an old supermarket and they'd walk across the tracks to enter the back door. Even if we said, look, you can't do that. The cops don't want you doing that. Da, da, da. So 2 years ago, I was training an adult. This guy was awesome guy, a retired attorney, big time attorney. he was, a guy who's, a man of the legal system was doing the illegal crossing the tracks all the time, all the time. He crosses the tracks. He comes in. The train conductor pulls up and parks behind my gym. And he screams to like a kid at the doorway, "Get the boss." I come out. He's screaming at me from the train. I scream back at him and we just scream. He goes, I go, he goes. Then he drives away. And I realized there, like, I fucking accomplished nothing. I didn't listen to my son's advice of why I went louder than his volume. Then he went louder than me. And at the end, we couldn't shake hands. What could have been was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let me know what you need me to do and I'll get it done for you.
Yeah.
Versus going back. And in my younger years as a coach, if a kid wasn't following through, I didn't give much second chances. And maybe that's like the wrestler in me and how I was coached, how we were coached in the early 90s. It was a very abrasive coaching. Even parenting was a very, this is how it is, end of story. It wasn't an explanation. And so I don't, argue with people or get into it like all the stuff going on now. I don't start posting, I don't follow politics much, but I see enough of it with COVID, this, that. I work in the schools. I don't start posting stuff because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know that it will just be a shouting match
And you don't get
of
anywhere, and then you don't get
correct.
anything done during the athletes that are paying you and trusting you.
Yeah.
You leave, you
Yeah.
don't service them because you're arguing with, some
On
jerk off
Twitter.
on the
And
internet. Yeah.
so that was a lesson my son told me. He's like, sometimes you don't need to fight back. You don't even need to get involved. And what are we taught as kids? Oh, did they say something to you? Go fuck him up. That was what was said to us. So now it's like, all right, somebody had something bad to say about me. That's fine.
Yeah.
The real people know the real me, or this guy shouted at me. I don't know what happened before this moment, but let me just hear him out or let me hear her out, whatever the scenario is. What's the best way I could help you? You let me know. So I've gotten better with that. And then, so after you share your story, I want to hear, Joe, what you want to get better at. Cause you're talking about, I know what I'm trying to get better at. I
It's
feel like I
funny.
got a lot to get better
I
at.
think it was, and I can't remember the specific. And there was another story that something in their bedroom that because I remember they got so happy because I made a big deal about it. Now I'm so mad because I know I'm going to remember the second we're done recording. But there was another time talking about something was I was trying to figure something out, and I was like, oh, I got this going on. I got an appointment in 10 minutes, and I don't know. It's like trying to do like 3 different things, and I forget who else was involved, but it was whoever was involved. I think like my kid just walked by, and she was like, well, why don't you just call him? And it was like one of these things where I was trying to figure, I forget what it was, but something with maybe the website or something
Yeah.
crashed. And I was like, I got to get this done before this and this. And then I'm trying to do everything myself, which is that is a big issue that I have, is not delegating enough. I've gotten better, but I'm not good at it. And it was just one of those things where like, it's just so simple. Like a little kid was like, well, instead of trying to figure everything out, why don't you call him and maybe he could help you?
Kids are
And then like,
amazing.
it was just so it was simple. And I go, "Yeah, you know what? Yeah, maybe I'll do that,
Yeah.
But it's just that simple. Sometimes we overthink
Oh, yeah.
everything, and the answer is just so simple. Oh, why don't you call him? Or why don't you ignore Big Gun 69 who's talking shit on the internet? Why don't you just block him? Why don't you, like, the answer is just
Yeah.
so simple.
It's
But
amazing what kids recognize. And, as I taught elementary phys ed for a while. And when I went back to teaching, I taught elementary phys ed for a year. And I tell you, I would do it again. Like I say, like, dude, if I ever got transferred out of the high school, I'd teach elementary phys ed and then do an after school strength and conditioning program. Being around kids is so invigorating, but having your own kids, I think, teaches you how to humanize your business. Is like you realize like things go wrong, things aren't perfect, and so you just like explain those things, and so I don't know, having kids has made me better at everything,
it
at
also
coaching, everything.
Yeah, and I'll dovetail off of that. I feel the same way. I just said how I started my first 5 years was I got to, sprinkle in some NFL combine guys and some high level athletes, but 85% of my day was 7 to 13 year olds. I thought, like, to make it, quote unquote, make it in this industry, like the best coaches, you're the man if you work with pro athletes. And that's what I then aspired. I thought you like graduated, and if you were really good, you got to work with pro athletes, which I'm fortunate that I did. And I do still work with athletes and pro athletes and love many of them. But it's funny now, coaching for 25 years and being 46 years old, that's what I'm getting back. I want to get more into now that I have younger kids, and not just my own kids, but watching them play soccer. Like when their friends come over, I've offered to their soccer coach, hey, if you want to do some strength and conditioning, free of charge, I'll come in once or twice a week and do that, because now I realize I enjoyed it more than I realized. I got a little burnt out because it was all I was doing, for like 12 hours a day, and too much of anything isn't, always the best.
No doubt.
But those are the kids you make the biggest change with. Like, yes, it's cool. NFL player walks into your gym, an Olympic athlete, like that's very cool. It's awesome. But they're already at a certain point. You kind of, it's more about like not effing them up, like just kind of maybe you help them prolong their career another year or two.
Yeah.
But you got a kid from 7 to 13. Those are crucial developmental years. Like that's life-changing stuff. And so now I'm like, you know what? Maybe the best coaches in the world, the most passionate coaches in the world, the most knowledgeable coaches in the world should be aspiring to work with 7 to 10-year-olds and not, pro athletes at the end of their career.
I think it's actually very challenging to learn how to work with the 7 to 9 age. Then there's that like 10, 11 is another kind of different age than 12 to 13. I don't know if you follow him, but a good friend of mine, he's up in the Boston area. His name is Jeremy Frisch. So whenever I talk about youth, Jeremy, I think, is like the master. So he's in a old school, and his gym is in, I think, the old gymnasium or cafeteria. And so it was converted into, I believe, offices. But that school left behind all the, elementary phys ed gymnastics stuff, the crash mats, his training of the kids. If you saw it, you'd be like, this is where I want my girls to go. They're going through obstacle courses. They're catching things in the air. It's tag games. I mean, what he's doing is really what Soviet Union did with all their younger kids. My dad grew up in Romania. So their phys ed was 3 days a week, but for 2 hours. But they did these like 20 to 25-minute segments where it was like, okay, for 20 minutes, your friends go and play handball. Next 20 minutes, you go to the track and you sprint and you jump over these boxes. The next 20 minutes, you're going to throw these little miniature implements. It was like small shot puts, small javelins. Then the next 20 minutes, you go here and you do like play wrestling. And they were just putting them in all of these different, multifaceted, everything we know kids need. So how do I know how far behind the 8 ball we are? So I'm training at a high school. I train the freshmen, the incoming freshmen. And at my gym, I take kids in 6th grade, but once in a blue moon, I'll take a kid who's like middle or late 5th grade. I always tell parents, I go, I'm pretty hesitant to kind of get them into this setting, because I think if I was training young kids, I'd want more of what Jeremy had, like this gymnastics type place, probably like what your kids were going through. But I'll do it. And then you see, like, you have a 6th grader who could do squats and lunges and kettlebell cleans and jumping over hurdles and pushing sleds. Then you get a 14-year-old freshman who can't do one bodyweight squat. And that's when you're like, this is why we need to start them earlier with some real basic elementary things. I remember James Thinker Smith said to me, he goes, think about it. If a kid can't do a bodyweight squat, that means he struggles to sit on the toilet to take a shit. That's what he said. I was like, oh my God, if we break it down, you're right. How do you
Yeah.
squat to the toilet if you can't do a body weight? Are you crashing all the time? Like what's, I don't know how I'm overthink it, but that's why I'll I'll play the long game. So when you're in 6th grade, I'll train you once, maybe twice a week. We're waiting it out because of the days you're not with me. I want you to go and just do a couple push-ups throughout the day. Do a
Yep.
couple. If you do, I would say I want you to do 5 push-ups and squats before school, after school, and at night. That's 15 a day. That's 75 Monday through Friday. That's 300 reps in a month. That's 3,600 reps in a year. And it takes you 3 minutes a day, a minute, and it adds up. And what's interesting is my son, especially, so he's just turned 13. I opened this gym 8 years and a few months ago. So at age 4, he was in the gym, not training, but he'd be there. My kids would do homework in the office and draw, but then they'd come out and then they'd sit on somebody's sled. Then a kid would pull the weights off. Then they'd push the sled. They'd hand walk across monkey bars. They would just, they would come out and somebody would hold their ankles. They'd walk. They never did a quote unquote training session. But then, at age 13, he's, could deadlift 225 without, like, it's just not hard.
Yep.
And is he the fastest, the best, the this, that? No, but he was doing a lot of little things leading up. And he's certainly got, of course, a lot of work to do on a lot of things. But what I'm saying is those early years, if they're lost and there's not a good physical education program in the school, as you know, these kids are showing up so behind the 8 ball that it's actually dangerous to send a kid to freshman football. Like, for example, I train another kid. He's a sophomore. He's like, Zach, they let the freshmen come into the weight room with us. He's like, it was fucking crazy. He says to me, he's like, a kid was benching. There was no clamps on. He's like, the kid got stuck. Another kid grabbed it with one arm. He's like, and so the kid who was stuck, he let go of the bar. He's like, he tried, dude. And I was like, holy effing hell. Like, if you think you've seen YouTube fail videos, imagine what goes on in a school. And here's, piggybacking on so much of what we said, parents don't understand that that is not the right thing. Like, you can't just show up and start trying to do a power clean when you can't do a pull-up or a squat. So the freshmen that I'm training, we do an athletic warm-up, and they do body weight and dumbbells, and they do farmer walks. That's it. And it's like, they're probably not touching a barbell until football is over. But guess what? We're squatting with kettlebells, squatting with dumbbells. They're doing band, getting 100 band pull parts a day. They do 5 push-ups at a time. And if you could do more than 5, I maybe give you the option to 8 or 10. But everything is like lots of sets of 5, like high, low reps, high sets. And this is, so if they're in for like 5 weeks now, these kids are worlds apart from they were the first week. So as a coach, I think, like, emotionally, I've gotten better at understanding that these first few weeks are going to look so horrific that you hope no cameras actually come out. Oh, this is what I want to say. Last thing, Joe, you were talking about white belt mentality. I feel like I got to get a lot better at coaching at a lot of things. But what I really want to get better at is, even though I haven't trained a sprinter for a while, I want to learn more of the mechanics of speed. I want to kind of deep dive in training for speed. So that has certainly evolved a lot in my programming. So that's something I want to get to, as well as, this is not so much for my own the kids I train, but for my own kids, is manual therapy. I don't know why I was thinking of it like last week. I remember way back in the day, you were trained by Ann Fredericks, Stretch to Win.
Stretch to Win.
So I'm remembering the first time I visited your gym, you were stretching out Dave Deal. The first time. Actually, that wasn't the first time. It was the second time. First time was your storage closet. And so my kids are getting aggressively into these sports. And now, of course, what do I think about? Preserve the body. longevity. How do you keep the body feeling good? And today, compared to 10, 20 years ago, kids have done a lot more volume of sport and much less volume of physical prep. And so their bodies are getting beat up. I mean, the writing's on the wall. So, I'm looking more into sprint work for not, we train football players, lacrosse, basketball, but utilizing sprints and the whole manipulation of volume. And part of me thinks it's not as complicated as people make it,
Yeah.
and some of the programming of even training. Like I was looking at my programming at the high school. I was like, all right, these guys, we're going to do a 2-week cycle with pause squat, pause bench press. And then I'm reminded, I'm like, these fucking kids won't stretch their arms on pull-ups. What the fuck am I worried about pause bench for?
Yeah, it's
You
so
get
true.
carried away. So
And
let's hear. Yeah.
the speed is, I agree, as someone who incorporated a lot of it, because we did a lot of stuff training guys for the NFL
Yes.
Combine and the 40-yard dash being so important. But most of the information, a lot of the information is from track and field coaches. And, we got obsessed with all Charlie Francis's work early on, and, all great stuff. But then I also realized, like, exactly to your point of what you just said, you start reading some of these higher level sprint coaches that are training, guys and girls for the Olympics. And then you're like, yeah, but 98% of my clientele is little
Correct.
Johnny who can't sit down on the toilet, without crashing down. Do I really, am I overcomplicating things, or should I get the basics, a few basic mechanics of what the body should look like, and make sure, manipulate the volume so I'm not killing this kid, but do enough that they adapt, and that, there's some kind of adaptation, and they get better. But I think it's the most it gets more overly complicated more than any other aspect of training, is speed training for the general pop and or average high school and college kid. It doesn't need to be as difficult and complicated as I think most of the information out there will have you believe.
When you mentioned Charlie Francis, because I've got, of course, his training manual. I got it so many years ago. I was living with my parents. That's how long ago that was. Even like his programming is so basic. And so I was sharing, I got this book here. This is a book from 1980. See this? You see that book, Joe?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's Pete Koch on the cover, Swede from Heartbreak Ridge.
Yep.
So I was going over this with Matt Nickel, who works with a ton of pro hockey players.
Yeah.
You may have met him at Swiss.
I did, and I just talked to him on Instagram for the first time in forever. I listened to him on a podcast recently. I always love hearing him talk.
He's one of us, dude.
Yeah,
he's one of us. He even says it. Like, we were going through the workouts here. So Frank Costello was a strength coach at Maryland, and it's like, even some of the old, I think I left it upstairs. I have books kind of all throughout the house, which my wife hates. So I have a book, The Soviet Training and Recovery Methods. You're talking about plyometrics. We're like, oh, you can't do jump training more than like 2 reps, 3 reps, but they're doing like 10 reps or 30 seconds of shit. And you realize, like, they're also imperfect. Yes. And so as a coach, I'm actually constantly trying to expose myself and say, yeah, I struggle with overthinking program design. I mess up on business stuff. I mess up on communication. You and I said this, like, I don't know, the last time we saw each other was at your wedding. And so I think it's like important as a dad, as a coach, is like, and also from the whole Instagram thing, people see something and I'm like, look, man, I'm just like you, dude. I just probably post more videos than you. That might be the difference. I struggle just like you. I make mistakes in coaching. Sometimes I'm tired, there's all these things I experience as a human, but reading some of these books from like the best in the world, you're like, damn, I'm doing this shit already. Or you're like, why am I reading this? This is written for Olympians and I'm training, a bunch of 15-year-olds. What the hell am I actually think I'm going to apply from this? Or I think, okay, Ben Johnson squatted halfway down. I don't think Charlie Francis was like, Ben, if you don't squat all the way down, there's no way you could, win this. There's all
The
these like,
Instagram police going after
yeah,
Ben Johnson, who's the fastest human on earth at that point. Yeah,
yo,
it's like
think. So I'm thinking like with all the stuff happening with the Olympics now, I want to make a public, I just want to thank publicly all the Instagram and Twitter experts as to why somebody took the silver instead of the gold. I want to thank you for like telling me why Conor McGregor broke his leg, because you've evidently been training with him for the past 3 years. Like, we don't know, but people feel the need to break down. It's weird. It's a strange downfall in our field. And a friend of ours said to me, when I say strength coach profession, he goes, there's not a whole lot of professionalism in our profession. And I'm like, damn,
unfortunately
when you
true.
say that, it just breaks my heart. It does, because sometimes I worry that, like you're talking to your daughter's coaches. I wonder if they sometimes look at us like these guys are just dumb strength coaches, because these guys are idiots. They're just strength. Yeah, what's a strength coach? Because we're being compared to what they see predominantly on social.
Yeah.
And so the professionals don't maybe get a whole lot of traction because they're not showing anything crazy. And there's some great strength coaches who've actually retired from college sector, and they're just doing it out of their garage, or they're actual school teachers like Chris Corfist and Tony Holler. He does this program called Feed the Cats. Like, they do jumps, they do sprints, they do some lifting, they do a very low volume approach, which almost reminds me of like the high intensity method of like get it done and then rest.
Yeah.
They almost applied that weightlifting, that high, the one all out set. And it's, to me, I almost think that's common sense. Hey, that set, I think if we do another set, it's going to look like shit. Let's just call it.
Yep.
Let's just be done. Or, dude, you just deadlifted 500 pounds. We don't really need to even go heavy on anything right now. You could go fucking do concentration curls because you just broke a PR and we could just chill out. You know what I mean? But like, it's almost common sense, but we want to complicate it. And I'm as guilty. I'm like, looked at my programming, I'm putting on the board. I'm like, why am I trying to do a pause anything when we just got to get better at the basics? Or wrestling in the Olympics is coming up. Guess what we're going to see? Double leg takedowns. The thing you learn as a first year wrestler.
Yeah.
If you're a 5-year-old, you learn a double leg takedown. And here they are mastering the double leg takedown into the Olympic finals.
It's such a great point, and it's such before you mentioned like things that I would like to get better at. That's actually, well, unrelated to, I guess it's all related, but like life wise, I'm with you as far as like being better with communicating, staying in touch with people. Like it's an excuse, but it is a real thing too. When you have a business, you have a family, and then after you have kids, like it does get more difficult. There are so many hours in the day, but it's an excuse. We could all be better, and I know me especially. As we get older, it just the things that are really important become more important to you and more apparent. Like, dude, we're not here for long. Like that the email or the working an extra hour isn't always the answer. Staying in touch with close friends and going to dinner every now and then, responding to a text, or just calling someone to say, hey man, what's up, how you doing? Like, nobody does that anymore.
Calling
So I
is
definitely
calling somebody is weird.
Yeah, you're considered weird, right? Listen, if somebody calls me and they're just like, hey man, just seeing what's up, I'm like, all right. And I don't know if this is a Jersey thing, but it's like, what do you want? You need to borrow money. What did you do? Do you need to get bailed out of jail? Why are you calling me? Why are you interrupting my day? But there are some people that are just genuine friends that are like, hey man, haven't talked to you for a while. Yeah. Wanted to say hi, but we have our guard up, so much.
Dude, this is a story. So listen to this, because you posted on your Instagram I met the guru from you. Our dear friend, the guru, passed away, and you're mentioning phone calls. So the first time I met the guru was there was I think it was a bench press only competition at Apollon Gym next to my first gym. And Sal would always do it because that was an off week in the NFL. It was like Thanksgiving weekend. So Guru, I had heard about him from you, but never met him. This is maybe 2007. Some random guy comes into my gym and starts putting flyers all over my desk. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Who the fuck is this guy? Exactly what I'm thinking. And I like pick up the flyer and he introduces himself. He's like, I'm the guru. And I was like, holy shit, I was about to kick your ass, man. Fucking just randomly walking in here, posting like he had those like folding flyers. And so mentioning the phone call, some years ago, he calls me the day, I feel like it was January 2nd. And I was like, damn, what the hell's the guru calling me for? I haven't spoken to him. He's like, I'm drunk dialing you. He says to me.
Really? Because he rarely drank.
Yep. So he was like the day after New Year's. And I don't know. He must have like gone through his phone and kind of like did like the Wheel of Fortune spin and saw my name. He's like, I'm drunk dialing you, Zach. And then from then on, we started going out on, having like kind of regular family like dinners and stuff like that. But that phone call was how we started hanging out a lot, was the drunk dial, he said.
Wow. I didn't even know that. That's funny that we brought up the, just reaching out and calling someone. Yeah.
There's a comedian, Aziz Ansari, who's like, there's a clip out. You saw that?
I don't know if the one you're talking about, but he's funny as hell. I don't know which one you're talking about.
He's like, I called my friend and he answered the phone and was like, hello? Are you on fire? What the fuck? Text me that shit. Like, do not call me unless you're on fire. I was laughing so hard. I think my delivery of it is obviously not as funny. So for our friends listening, you're going to have to, Google it because it's on YouTube. Nothing is sacred. It's all on YouTube. But I was laughing so hard how he's like, are you on fire? Text me that shit.
Oh my God, that is funny. But yeah, it's the world we live in. I'm laughing because I'm guilty of it.
100%
and it's like, what's
guilty.
so strange about calling your friend to say hello? Yes. How you doing? And it's not to bring the show down, but speaking of the guru, like that really hits home as far as, man, like you hear the expression tomorrow's not promised to any of us. Talk about the ultimate example of that. Like, he was the guy we all went to, like all the so-called health and fitness gurus, when they needed to get in shape or they had a problem or they needed to get their health back. Like, he was the guy that all the people that knew about health and fitness went to and sent their athletes to. So when you see someone like that go basically out of nowhere, I'm as shocked as anyone. And I was close with him. It's just like, as sad as it is, and this one's gonna hurt for a while. I don't know. I don't want to get like emotional, but it's like this morning when I woke up, you're more grateful for the little things, your kids, the fact that we're here, being able to talk to you. That's the important shit, and his passing will definitely make me act like I've been saying I want to keep in touch with people more, and I've been saying it a lot, but haven't been doing it. This was like the wake up call of like, dude, life is too short. The important shit comes first. That email will be there tomorrow. That a lot of shit could wait, but your health, your family, your close friends, be grateful for every second that we're here, every day that we're here. When we have our health, we could sit here and talk training. Like now I don't take even this for granted. Like being able to sit down and talk with you for an hour and a half, 2 hours, like where that might've just been like, oh, cool, doing a podcast with Zach. Like it almost meant more to me today, if that makes sense.
As we've gotten older, the heartbreaking thing is a older wrestling coach said to me, he goes, Zach, Now that you're getting older, you're going to lose people and you're going to lose kids. You're going to lose kids that you train
Yeah.
because they go to another gym. You're going to lose them. Uh, they might commit suicide. They might get murdered. Like all these things I started experiencing into like I got into my mid 30s. And we say, oh, we're gotta, but I've been getting better, but I'm still like you. I still struggle with all those things, but I think my kids and wife, our kids and our wives, I'm sure your wife, they keep us grounded.
Yes.
Like, really, is it so important that you post on your Instagram right now? Like, just be here, be present. My wife has been great with that because she doesn't do any of that stuff. So I love when we get to go away somewhere and my phone doesn't work. And I like just keeping it real, being a real person. And these lessons have been hitting me. A month ago, another close friend of mine passed away. He was the strength coach at Notre Dame Prep High School. I mean, if this guy was also like the guru, such a giver, such like the life to be around. And we were always like, as soon as this is over, we could do a high school strength coaches seminar. As soon as this, as soon as that. And even I remember when the Ultimate Warrior passed away. Before that, he called me, left me a voicemail. I missed his call. I called him. Then this went unanswered. Then it was like, I'll just wait for this to pass. And then it's always conversations left unfinished,
Yep.
which is, um, you know, you don't have no words to say. And so what not that it makes anything right or better, is like I just focus really on remembering like all these funny times, like him coming in and all those flyers. I was like, what the fuck is this guy? Who is this guy? And he's like, I'm the guru. And I was like, holy shit.
He definitely created a lot of a freaking lot of laughs. Oh my God.
Yes. Fun, just funny times. We such good times. And so it makes me better to remind me to aspire to be a better friend, a better person. And, yeah, there's like no good way to say any of those things, but I focus on really now, I guess being this age, we're like, holy crap, like life is going way too fast and we better slow down and enjoy it. My also
Yes.
advice to any younger strength coaches, and I hate to sound like this older guy,
I know. I know.
is when we're 70, nobody is going to throw a party and say, hey, I posted the most on Instagram. I had the most videos on YouTube. That's not going to mean anything. And so I really encourage coaches out there. We were talking about like the long hours earlier, Joe, and like it's hot in the gym, da da da. I encourage these younger coaches to take care of their health. Be careful of burying yourself in work. Like have a day, 2 days off. Don't be afraid to cap your hours at a certain thing. People always say, Zach, train adults in the morning, do this. I don't want to add adults. We're doing great the way it is. I don't want to add more things and manage more people. I want to be able to take a vacation with the family. And when I take a vacation, if I can't get a coach to cover it, guess what I'm doing? Closing. The world is not going to end because Johnny Smith missed, a Monday and Wednesday lift.
Yep.
The world's just not going to end. And if you work at other places, they might try to make you think the world is going to end. We're like, I put this shit all out there because I don't care if somebody's listening and takes it back to the administration. But like when a coach is like, hey, dude, are you training them on this day, that day? Bro, I've been in the weight room all year long. Maybe tell your fucking kids to show up in the summer, and then you won't worry about the 2 weeks. Like when it's Christmas, winter break at the high school.
Yeah.
Guess where I'm going? Peace out. Wherever my wife and kids want to go, that's where I'm going. I'm not worried about the 4 or 5 workouts your team is going to miss when they're not training all summer. I'm
Great
going
point.
with my wife and kids. And if that's not good enough for you guys, then fire me. And I think that's also important, Joe, is for coaches to build themselves to a place where your back is never against the wall.
Yep.
So if you work at a college, you've got to have some other something, if you work at private, what else do you do if another COVID lockdown comes? So that's food for thought. So you can do things with family and friends. I don't want to take pride in outworking everybody anymore. I don't want to take pride in that.
Yeah, that was a message that I used to always send. And I mean, we're still, as you say, that we're still two hustlers, guys that work our
No doubt.
asses off, definitely.
Yes.
But I'm glad you brought that up, because for the younger coaches, just remember, because it happened to both of us, and this maybe could be a good segue to finish talk
Yeah.
about the business seminar that Zach and I just did. That's going to be available. But Zach told the story that I didn't know, actually, as far as just like his health. And me, speaking of the guru, I became even closer with him we were close for about 20 years, but 4 or 5 years ago, I ran myself into the ground, and just very unhealthy, like heavier than I needed to be, bragging about only sleeping 3 hours a night, go, burn the candle at both ends. And I got to the point where like I couldn't function anymore. And that was what became, we called it like Operation Rebuild Joe D. Guru did my blood work, comprehensive. It was horrible. We read it on the podcast because I wanted everyone to hear it, and I wanted to hold myself accountable, but I also felt like I know there's younger coaches, older coaches that have this same mentality, because guys like us preached it. Like, nobody's going to outwork me. I don't need sleep. I don't need days off. I bragged that I didn't have a vacation my first 10 years in business. And then what happens is, if you burn yourself out and you get to the point where now you can't even function, guess how many people you're helping then? 0. So that extra hour, that extra day, at the time you think you maybe got ahead, but then when you burn out and you're in the hospital for 6 weeks or 6 months, or it could be worse, it's just not worth it. So yes, owning your own business and being an entrepreneur is freaking hard. It ain't all sunshine and rainbows, but this is something we talk about at the seminar, which is will be available to you guys as well. It's your bit. If you're going to open your own business, I touch on this in my presentation. Remember, it's your business. I forgot that for a while, and I was running my business like I was an employee of someone else's, doing things I didn't want to do. To Zach's point, working 12 hours, but then when someone said, hey, why don't you just start training adults before they go to work? So now instead of training 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., why don't you start at 5 a.m. and go from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. and you say yes to everyone, and then you get burnt out, unhealthy, angry, tired, miserable. Now your wife doesn't want to be around you. Your kids don't want to be around you. Your clients aren't getting that same trainer coach that they hired. You're not the happy, energetic, positive dude. So, just keep that all in mind. Don't work hard. You definitely have to push yourself through some uncomfortable times, but it's not burning the candle at both ends nonstop, doing a whole bunch of shit you don't want to do, because we both went through it. And then you lose more business and help less people when you get to the point where now you can't even go to work and you're taking off for weeks or months.
You're
So
run down. I was thinking that I had those, we shared those times where we got sick. And now when I look back, my wife's always like, I think you had the first COVID case. It was like 2017.
Patient zero right here, ladies and gentlemen.
I was, going to the doctors, different doctors, and they're like, all right, you just got the flu. You got the virus. Da, da, da. Finally, I go to Florida with my daughter during it must have been after I was coaching at the college level. So it must have been March. And I was coughing all night. And my daughter, this is 20, so she must have been 10 or 11. She calls my wife and says, Daddy can't stop coughing. So my daughter's the one who tells me I got to go see a doctor. In Florida, they got all those, walk-in clinics up and down, because of the older population. Yeah, they're like, we're diagnosing you with pneumonia. You've probably been walking around pneumonia for 6 weeks and who knows what else. So I was sick, but do you think anybody said to me at the college, listen, man, you look like shit. You're fucking coughing a lot. Just chill the fuck out for a week. Not one person said it. And so when I opened my one location, I remember telling at the time, which I closed that location, but I remember saying, the way we hire somebody is it has to be better than a college setting. We're going to give them the weekends off. They need 2 weeks paid vacation. If they're sick, we're shutting down the gym. We're not going to be like, you got to come in. We're going to be human. If he's sick, we're going to say, listen, coach is sick. We're going to let him rest today and tomorrow. If you're up in arms, so up in arms about it, and you want to cancel your membership, go for it, but I wanted to just be human. And, in the summertime, we're going to cut that Friday evening and we're just going to shut it down because just like we want to preserve an athlete's body, the coach needs some preservation. And what hit me is, I think after our seminar, I was at a big event and I ran into some college strength coaches. And I'm going to, some of them I had met before and the I don't know how to like properly word it, but I felt like they were almost like traumatized. I felt like I was speaking to people after they came. I'm not equating it to Vietnam, but like after war, you go through these guys go through such like this emotional trauma. Some of these coaches were just things were off about them. And I was like, damn, this is what happens when you're always on edge. Your job is on the line. You're getting moved around every few years. You got to tell your wife and kids that, yes, we're moving again. And now your kids are leaving in the middle of high school and nobody gives a shit about you, that your kids are in the middle of high school or it could be the middle of your kid's senior year and it's January and you got let go. Or now your wife's just like, I can't do this. Now you get divorced. Remember, and so that hit me seeing that. And so these are all things that just remind me like how to kind of manage this life as a coach and to not allow it to run you. And so I try to avoid working Fridays and Saturdays so I could get to my son's baseball tournaments. I'm going to get to watch my daughter's tennis. And my daughter is really the one when she was born, she's the firstborn, love, right? You're in love with your wife, but then there's this love you have for your kids. It's also like this other kind of love where you're like, holy crap, I never knew such love existed. And so, of course, that could inspire you to work more and so on. But for me, it inspires me to work smarter. So I never miss a game, a tennis, whatever whatever the game that they're playing is. Do I never miss stuff? Of course, here and there, I might miss something on a Wednesday when I'm coaching, but for the most part, I'm in it and I'm always ready to say, I got to take my son to this. I got to take my daughter to this. And that means I'm not going to be able to be there. And if that doesn't work for you, then you could fire me. I'm always ready to get fired for doing the right thing. That's it.
I love that. And I'm ditto on that one. I'm right with you. So we definitely need to do a part 2 on like, I know people ask us about like crazy gym stories and all. I think that should probably be another episode because I think what you just said and our last few minutes of talking is like a perfect segue to give some people some information on the business, the Garage Gym Godfathers seminar, business seminar that we did was basically over 4 hours of, stories, both success stories of failure,
mistakes
that we made, how we got started, how we were able to stand out in what it is now and continue to stand out 20 plus years later in a very crowded fitness industry, attracting the right clientele for you, not trying to please everyone and attract everyone, but still attract enough that you could pay your bills and make a living, humanizing your business, like all all different ways to build the
I
business
think we
kind
spoke
of your
also,
dreams.
yeah, spoke about hiring coaches, mistakes we made, partnership, what to look for in a partner, how legal stuff with partners. So I think for a coach out there who wants to quote unquote keep it real,
Yep.
you love coaching, but you want to be a pro. You want to build multiple streams of income. You're not trying to be a quote unquote influencer. You're trying to change lives by just doing the right thing. We called it the Garage Gym Godfathers. That's going to be a great, um, it's a business seminar. I had a lot, dude. I just had a lot of fun because it was like a hangout.
Yes.
And we had great coaches. We did a Q&A, and it's cool. It just also showed that we attracted good quality people. Nobody was there trying to do like a quick fix.
Nope.
We were in it for the long run. People that love strength and conditioning, sports performance.
Yeah, it was a great. We tried to make the whole seminar, and I feel we accomplished this. And because of the people that were there, we talk about this all the time. The more seminars you go to, certification courses, there's always this thing where people say, "Man, that was great, but I talked to, coach so and so in the lobby, or I met this coach at the freaking
Those are
urinal
the
in the
best.
bathroom, or
Yeah.
at lunch we had a beer, getting in my car in the parking lot. Like I got to pick this guy's brain, and all the best information seems to be like in the hallways, at the hotel
Yeah.
bar, in the parking
In
lot. So we
between.
were like, let's just have a real seminar, all the business stuff that a lot of the business gurus don't talk about, like the real stories. It's not, success isn't linear. Like you don't start and you every day you just get better and your business grows and you're a multimillionaire and it's over and you're working
S-
on a beach on your
70.
laptop for two
Yeah,
hours a
70.
day.
You're gonna get 70 leads this month. 70 leads. The fuck, man. I don't know. Like if I have 10 clones, maybe I could do that. Um, but I also, from two guys that don't have a massive staff, massive overhead, technology type stuff. We're pretty basic dudes with our knowledge of these things. So I also think it's going to be good for coaches who are not in the private sector. So
Yes.
high school strength and conditioning is getting very big. College, of course, is super competitive. My buddy Ronnie McKeefrey, they had an assistant position open for football. I can't remember how many. It was like 700 applicants.
Wow.
Set. I don't even know how you go through the
Yeah.
application process, but that just shows you what kind of crowded market it is. And look, I don't know if they're all, the qualifying factor is you got to have a CSCS for that. So the marketplace is pretty crowded. So I think it's going to be good for any coach. And we told people this would be fun, Joe, which we should do an excuse to make it happen. We said we would do like a training seminar where we take
Yes.
them through a workout and then we just do Q&A on training, like a hands-on day. We did one way back and I thought we recorded it. We called it Lost Secrets of Strength.
I still
Like
have the t-shirt, but I don't know if there's any video. I still have
I
that's a
thought we
badass
recorded it.
t-shirt. Lost Secrets of Strength.
It was
I still
crazy.
have it.
That was amazing. I remember it was a speed lower body day. And then
Yes.
the next day, I took them through a full body day with like dumbbell clean and press, Zercher squats. And we did, by the way, we missed a lot of the questions people asked. We will make a part two and do all
Yes.
those things. And man, a lot of life and business lessons in this episode. And so it's, yeah, man, I just hope I think people will want to re-listen to this, take things to heart, and just be real, humanize it. I'm really trying to share a lot of my mistakes to help coaches of all ages, because there's coaches older than us who got into it late. Like I got into it in my late 20s, that trying to figure it out. And there's nothing wrong, by the way, with doing strength and conditioning as like a part-time gig outside of your full-time job. Like I told everybody
No.
that at the seminar. I was like, you're not a fraud just because you're part-time. Like I'm not, I
It's
don't know
actually a great
people.
way to get started. And there's less
People,
pressure if it doesn't,
yeah,
if it might just remain a part-time thing, but if it does blow up and people are knocking down your doors, then you could quit your other job and do it full
That's right.
time. But it's I don't I don't think it's realistic. You get some of these social media influencers that are like, we're both live your passion kind of guys. Like we both
Yeah.
do what we love for a living, but I would never tell someone like, hey, you hate your job, you got a wife and 3 kids, screw it, quit your job and open up a garage gym. Like, no, on the weekends for 2 or 3 hours each day after work, train some people out of your garage, develop that. Yeah, it gives you a second revenue stream. That's awesome. You're doing something you enjoy, you're passionate about. If it grows and you feel comfortable that you can then quit your job, awesome.
Yep.
But if it doesn't, then there's not that pressure either. So yeah, having a strength and conditioning gig or like opening up your little garage gym or something and training clients on the weekends on the side, there is certainly no shame in
And
that, as
then
long as you're doing it the right, you're a good coach, you're teaching the right things.
you
But
build your craft. You build your craft, and you can then experiment with 10 squat jumps versus 4. It's going to be all right. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Holy crap, dude. All right, Joe, anything else we got to close out with? Do we got to tell people where to go, what to do for your website, anything?
Yeah, I would just say, so this, like we said, if you own your own business, a gym, whether it's a garage or a big multi-million-dollar facility, if you're a business owner, this is for you. But I also just wanted to say, and this is something we talk more in depth in the cert, if you're a personal trainer working for someone else, you should view yourself as a brand and a business within just, being more around the pro wrestling industry. This is something I learned, like, even though you're a wrestler for, say, the WWE, when you have that 5 minutes of TV time, you should be selling yourself. And that's not to put the company down. You still be, you represent the company with pride and respect, and you do the right thing. But you want everyone looking at you and saying, man, of all the wrestlers, of all the characters, he's the best or she's the best. I remembered him or her. So think that way. If you're a personal trainer at someone else's gym, you're just getting started. This Garage Gym Godfathers business seminar, I would recommend it. We would both recommend it to you just as much as the business owner. It will help you develop yourself and develop your business, because you should still look at it as like a business within the business. So for anyone, Zach and I are both offering it on our websites, but only, this is more of a specialty product because we're going to be using it for our certifications and some other like private stuff, I guess you would say. So we're going to only offer it to the public for the month of August, starting today when this podcast drops on both of our platforms. So it's August 5th through the 31st. So grab it now. It's over 4 hours of Zach lecture, I lecture, and then we both do a Q&A with a bunch of amazing coaches and gym owners. So my site is DeFranco'straining.com. You could click on I don't even know. I got to check out my site. It's DeFranco'straining.com and click on ebooks. That's where like it'll be a digital download product. So click there, and then Zach's site,
ZachEvanesh.com, which looking back at it, I'm always like, why the fuck would I use that as a website name? What if I'm on Joe Rogan and I say, go to ZachEvanesh.com? He'll be like, how do you spell that? But we're going to have it as the videos were recorded, and I believe both of us will have the audio to be able to download. So if you're smart enough, I don't even know how to download an audio to my phone, but I'm sure most people are. You'll be able to listen to it on the go. So I'm excited that we put something out to help coaches that's not like too complex, that confuses them and just doesn't get them anywhere. I feel like everything is like, oh, they said ABC, I'm going to take action with that today and move forward. So like helping real coaches, we're super excited. I'm just excited to do that, man, because that's how I learned. I learned a lot from Ryan Lee in my early days, which was all actionable stuff. I would listen to something of his, and I could take action and create growth. So that's what we did. Something that's actionable, not confusing. You don't got to buy software, this, that. You don't, you could just take it, learn, and grow and kick ass. And then down the road, we'll do a training seminar. I would love to call it Lost Secrets of Strength. I read that. I mean, that's a
Lost
hard
Secrets
name
of
to beat.
Strength 2.0. Why not?
2. I mean, they did Fast and Furious 9, right? Is it now 9 now?
Yeah.
We could do 2.0.
It's a great name. It makes for a great t-shirt. I'll tell you what, I don't know about you, but people even make fun of me now, because I wear the Garage Gym Godfathers t-shirt like 4 times a week. I freaking love that t-shirt. So we got to do it just for another new cool t-shirt.
It's all about those t-shirts. Cool, man. Well, this was great. Thanks to everybody for listening. If you're listening on Joe's podcast, my podcast is called the Strong Life Podcast. If you're on my end, Joe's podcast is the Industrial Strength Show. And obviously find them wherever you could find. And then you post the video on your YouTube, right, Joe?
I've been doing audio for podcasts.
Okay.
I'm going to eventually do the YouTube thing, but right now it'll just be iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher.
There you go, people.
And then Instagram at DeFranco's Gym, and your Z Evanesh?
Z Evanesh, yep.
Z Evanesh, follows both on Instagram. Boom. This was awesome. We'll definitely do a part 2 of just crazy training stories, but more business and life stuff for today.
Good stuff, man. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.